Okay, I want to thank you all for joining us today. My name is Mary Burcham, and I am the Business Development Manager here at Centroid. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. If you can keep yourselves on mute, that will allow for better sound quality throughout the presentation. And if you have questions, we definitely want to get to those, but we'll do that at the end of the presentation. And you can send those to me via the chat feature, which you'll see at the bottom of the screen. Send those directly to me, Mary Bertram. So right now, I want to go ahead and introduce Kelly Wilkinson. He is the associate partner here at Centroid. So Kelly, at this time, I'll turn the call over to you.
All right, thanks, Mary. And thank you everyone for joining today's webinar, Look Before You Leap, or how we're going to remove uncertainty from your EBS upgrade. My name is Kelly Wilkinson. I run Centroid's applications practice, and I've been implementing Oracle EBS for about 22 years for clients globally. Recently, I've helped multiple clients walk through and deliver on their 12.2 upgrades, and wanted to share some insights and ways that the uncertainty can be reduced, as well as the predictability be increased if you're looking at upgrading to 12.2. So many organizations that are running EBS but haven't yet upgraded are planning to do that in the coming years. As you know, if you're running 12.1.3, that's moving into extended support from Oracle, so you're under financial pressure to upgrade to the latest version. And in addition, having full supportability is also a key concern from your business teams. And in addition, there's also perhaps interest in being able to take advantage of some of the new features that are available in 12.2. But a lot of you, if you've been running EBS for a long time, you probably remember the pain of upgrading from 11i to release 12. And I'm sure you're not eager to go through such a large, complex project like that anytime soon. And you're probably wondering if the move from, if you're running 12.1.3 today, if the move from 12.1.3 to 12.2 will be as complex and messy as your upgrade from 11i to release 12. And you may be concerned about breaking something that your business depends upon. Depending on your position in the organization, you may be also being asked by management to help them understand what would be a timeline and effort estimate for getting to 12.2, and that's not always clear yet. And then how ultimately do you give that predictability back to your, not only your management team, but also your business stakeholders, so it's clear that you've got a plan and you know what it's going to take to get the environment ready, validated, and working as it does today in 12.1.3 on 12.2. So we're going to walk through a little bit of how to get there. Centroid has a comprehensive methodology for helping organizations go through a 12.2 upgrade. We've helped a number of clients go through this exact process, and we cover multiple threads in this process. Obviously, you've got the DBA thread. They're going to be actually executing the upgrade, making sure the software is up to date. You've also got a development thread of the project that will be ensuring that your custom objects still work as they are designed to work when you go to 12.2. And of course, you have a testing thread where you and the teams will be validating that the environment is working as it's supposed to prior to production. So all of these are just parts of your basic upgrade methodology, but if you're looking at what does it take to understand the effort, each of these is a little bit different. And each has its own level of uncertainty. So let's dig into each of the threads a little bit more in more detail to understand which ones are easier to plan the time and effort and which ones may have more difficulty. So let's start with functional. The easiest way to attack a 12.2 upgrade, if you're running 12.1.3 and you're planning to upgrade to 12.2, 9 out of 10 times it's going to be better to treat the upgrade as a technical upgrade. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to take advantage of new functionality. It just means you'll have the luxury of planning the deployment of new functionality on its own timeline. And that way, when you are looking at how long it's going to take to do the upgrade, you're just focusing on, let's make sure that the business gets what the business has today and that it still works as well as it does today. Phase 2 can always be the deployment of new functionality, but if you start to commingle the two, you run into challenges making it predictable, and your timeline can become more uncertain. So if your goal is predictability and your goal is just to get a date out there, treat it as a technical upgrade. You're not closing any doors to new functionality by doing that. The next thread is the DBA thread, and that has, that can have some uncertainty, but it's a little bit of a formula. Depending on how complex your technical architecture is, as well as your database size, will give you a lot of insight into how long each upgrade iteration is going to take, and therefore how much time and effort the DBA team is going to need to be committing to the upgrade. Another wild card could be whether you take the EBS upgrade as an opportunity to upgrade your database as a big bang or treat it as a separate project. But those are some of the key considerations that would go into, how big a project would this be? But I would argue it's fairly predictable with a little bit of digging around. Testing is another area where, if we go back to the simplifying assumption of making this a technical upgrade, you can get some insight into how long your testing needs to be by looking at if your business team has done regression testing. If you've done end-to-end regression testing before, that's going to give you a good indication of how long you need to allocate for true end-to-end validation. Because the beauty of treating it as a technical upgrade is that you really are focused just on regression testing, and that can be that's a bit of a known quantity if you've deployed something recently that is big and impacts a number of functions. Now, technical development is an area where there's a higher level of uncertainty. In an upgrade, Oracle obviously changes a lot of the standard APIs, the views, the tables, and the packages that all of your custom objects are referencing. And these changes can and will cause your customizations to not work the way that they do today. In addition, as you may know, with 12.2, there is online patching. And online patching is achieved through database editioning, which also requires a new set of development standards that Oracle is now requiring custom code to follow in order to use online patching. So without going through lines and lines of code, it's very difficult to determine what is going to break without slogging through a lot of testing and seeing what breaks there. In addition, depending on how many custom interfaces, extensions, reports, and workflows you have running and how complex they are, it can be tough. It can be tough to know how big a task is ahead of you to go through your technical objects. There is a better way, though, that can help provide some upfront predictability as to the timing and effort required to remediate your custom technical objects. Centroid's Athena tool is a proven tool that we have used with multiple clients over many, many years, going back to 11i to release 12, that goes through and identifies every line of code in your custom technical objects that's going to be impacted by the upgrade. It also will identify, by object, by line of code, what change made by Oracle is causing the impact, and then also produce a Chemly list. So not every organization has this, but having a list of all your technical objects is going to be step one to even understanding the effort. And we use all of these pieces of information to help you develop an accurate estimate of how much time and effort it's going to take to remediate custom technical objects during your upgrade. So let's dive in a little bit more of how Athena works. And it's fairly straightforward. We have two approaches that organizations can use to begin the Athena analysis. One is actually installing Athena on a non-production server, and it deploys some custom tables, and it can be run as a program directly on the application. But not every organization, number one, wants someone installing something on one of their non-production environments. Plus, getting VPNs can also be time-consuming and complicated. So we also have a manual approach of scripts that will that we can provide to different organizations, and those scripts can be run by your DBA team or your development team to pick up the custom object information and provide that back to Centroid manually. So either approach works equally well. What we do with that information that is collected is Athena then will compare that to published information from Oracle. So Oracle publishes metadata that gives a breakdown of every change that they've made to their standard objects, version by version. So knowing your starting version and knowing your target version, what Athena will do is crunch that information, and the result is that we can identify which custom objects were impacted by the 12.2 upgrade. Not every object is impacted, by the way. You may be running an environment that has 10,000 objects, but typically what we see is that in most organizations, anywhere from 10 to 20% is actually impacted between 12.1.3 and 12.2. Obviously, if you're coming from 11i, that number is going to be much higher. But we see typically about 10 to 20% have impacts. In addition, the line of code where the impact is occurring is also identified, and what change was made. The interesting thing is not every impact requires work. Some impacts are purely innocuous. Maybe another column has been added to a table, but you don't need to retrofit if it's something innocuous like that. But part of this analysis is to help dive through those details and really arrive at what needs to be remediated before you go into testing. In addition, there'll be a Chemly list and a grouping of your custom objects by object type. How many views, how many packages, how many form functions, etc. This is a sample of the instructions that would be provided to your team if you chose to go the manual approach. And we wanted to share this because just to help you understand, it's not a 25-page set of technical instructions. It's actually fairly straightforward. There are two main places where information will be captured. One will be from the database, and the other will be from the operating system or the apps tier. Within the database, the main variable that just needs to be provided is your custom object naming convention. Most organizations will prefix their custom objects with a 2 or 3 letter acronym. Sometimes there's more than one that's used, but once we have that information, there's some amendments that would be made to the script, and that's the main variable that just needs to be changed. On the OS, we also will pick up all of your Java, OA framework, and custom top data so we can review that. OA framework is definitely an area, as well as Java and custom JSPs. These are areas where there are more impacts from 12.1.3 to 12.2 than you'll find in just straight PL SQL type of changes. And they tend to require more work. So it's very important that we look at OA framework customizations and JSPs and anything over that deals with Java or OA framework. But the instructions are fairly straightforward. It's been very easy for organizations to run this with just some minimal guidance. So it's the preferred way that a lot of teams like to collaborate on getting this information. In addition, what Athena then will do is pull up a dashboard that is available online that we can share. It includes the, at a dashboard level, it can give you a first indication of, how many Chemleys are impacted. So in this case, we had 32,000 Chemleys and 2,600 actually were impacted. If we dive in and it may be useful just to quickly dive into one example just for reference, and I can show you where some of the line information is. We'll go with the screenshots. Anyway, on this, here we can see some of the detail around the line information. So we'll keep going on this. And then also a full report of where some of the groupings are. And all of this information is downloaded in Excel. And typically what we will do is we have a reporting function in here, and this information is extracted into Excel. And that's going to be the main place where a lot of the analysis and collaboration will occur. The result of this process is that we can begin to estimate the technical effort to remediate the custom objects during your 12.2 upgrade. Experience has shown that this is fairly accurate. Of course, there will be some discoveries that come up during both testing as well as some functional validation, but as a planning tool, it's very valuable to get a good order of magnitude estimate as to how much effort it's going to take and how long it should take. In addition to understanding the time, this also can pinpoint where you need to pay more attention during testing. Experience has shown that there's a few areas that really are hot areas for testing. One I mentioned before, anything involving OA framework customizations or any custom Java customizations that you may have supporting OA framework pages is a big area. And oftentimes there's a lot of remediation that's required to get that to work properly with 12.2. And as a result, testing should be heavier in those areas than other areas that underwent less change. Next is materialized views. You may be aware that materialized views are deprecated in 12.2. So depending on how many materialized views your organization has, there's more remediation and redesign required to get those to function in a different way. And those areas should also be a focus of testing. But this process really helps drive predictability. Your predictability of how long it's going to take should go up. The risk that you're taking on with the upgrade should go down because you understand better where the testing should be focused. And when the business gets on the system to begin their testing, they should have higher business confidence because most of the issues have been identified up front, remediated, and delivered to them working for testing. All right, with that, we'd like to open it up for some questions about this process.
Okay, Kelly, it looks like I have a couple of questions here. Are there any advantages to performing the Athena analysis directly on the database instead of using the queries?
Both work the same, so the end result is exactly the same. It's been designed that you can install it, but the end result is exactly the same whether it's picked up via the queries or installed directly.
Okay, the other, let's see, this other one that just came in. Okay, does Athena identify 12.2 development standards compliance issues as well?
That's an excellent question. One of the things that we pair the Athena analysis with is running the 12.2 readiness report, which is a standard Oracle report that is made available. If you're running 12.1.3, you may need to install a patch to get it, but we pair that to provide a complete picture. Athena does a really good job of picking up where standard objects have been changed and therefore need fixing. The readiness report then also looks at 12.2 standards that have changed to support database editioning. During this process, we marry both of these up together to provide a comprehensive view.
Great, great. Okay, how long does a 12.2 upgrade project take?
There's no one answer. It does vary a bit with the size and complexity of your organization. That being said, two things. One is it's not as lengthy and hard as the 11i to release 12 upgrade. That's number one. Number two, if you do treat this purely as a technical upgrade for your first go live, the range, meaning you don't try to adopt new functionality, you don't try to bake in process changes or business enhancements. You just treat it as a straight technical upgrade. What we've seen is that typically anywhere from 5 to 9 months is probably a good planning horizon for most organizations. Obviously, the simpler you are, if you're just running financials, you don't have a lot of customizations, you're not global, this is closer to that low end. If you're a global organization, you've got a lot of complexity, perhaps you've got a very complex technical architecture, it's gonna be longer. But we don't see, if this is a technical upgrade, we don't see these being 12-month projects purely for a technical upgrade. So it's somewhere in that 5 to 9 months framework, and your organization's complexity is going to be one of the main drivers behind that.
Okay. Okay, that's all the questions that I've received so far. Kelly, thank you so much for presenting. This is just so invaluable information, so we appreciate it so much. We will have the deck available that I can send to each of you, and then the recording will be available in a couple of days. We'll have that on our website, uploaded to our website. So if there are no more questions, that will wrap up our webinar today. Our next steps, as Kelly has here, if we can be of service, we'd like you to reach out to me directly. It's at mary.burcham@centroid.com. And then, of course, our website address is there as well. It's www.centroid.com.